Shalom Yesharella. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rucha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to those Akim that's preached the word in all truth and sincerity, along with the Israelite foreigner brothers that are like the heathens. But the line of outside goes back to the nation of Israel, which nation of Israel are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans through the prophecies and curses of Deuteronomy 28 chapter and throughout the Bible. So this is Brother Yakal Amon back another video, and today's video will be entitled Whatsoever Things Were Written aforetime were written for our learning. I was going to go on some precepts and Lord willing, you brothers and you sisters out there be edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashmo Shai, you know. And I'm going to start off in the book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4, and this was an epistle or a letter that Apostle Paul wrote to the church of Rome, which were to the Israelite foreigners that believed in Yahweh Ba'ashmo Shai once they repented and converted to the truth, But this is Romans 15 and 4. It says, For whatsoever things were written aforetime, aforetime meaning in the ancient times, in the past time, were written for our learning. Right, so, everything that was written in the past was written for our learning. Whether it was good examples or bad examples, that we do patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Right, because we understand patience means to suffer, and the scriptures is the comforter, so while we suffer in the truth for righteousness' sake, we have the comfort of the scriptures that we might have hope for salvation, the Lord willing, because when we go back and read the biblical accounts, all our forefathers had some form of tribulation, and we all can relate to that because we understand that Yahweh Ba'ashmo Shai often tries, he often tests his men, so when we go back and read those biblical accounts about our righteous forefathers, how they were tested and prevailed, that gives us hope because we understand if we do the same thing and apply the scriptures, and be obedient to the Lord, then we're able to overcome all things. And I just want to go into, these examples, as I said, avoid Israel's mistakes, and I'm going to start off in 1 Corinthians 10 and 1, because this is all happening, in the wilderness, after our forefathers were delivered from ancient Egypt, you know. But this is 1 Corinthians 10 and 1. It says, Moreover, brethren, I will not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud. The cloud is talking about a chariot, a so-called UFO, which was a huge chariot, that gave us light in the wilderness. It says, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized to Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Yahweh Shai. Right, so Yahweh Shai was in that chariot. He was guiding our forefathers, throughout, the wilderness. Gave us light, at nighttime, so that this shows that Yahweh Shai, he was always here for us. He was always here in the beginning. It says, verse 5, it says, but with many of them Yahweh was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Yeah, because only two of the first generation of Israelites that came out of ancient Egypt made it into the promised land, which were Joshua and Caleb. All those wicked Israelites of that first generation died off. The Lord killed all of them. Even Moses, he didn't enter the promised land, because of what he had. He didn't give glory to Yahweh Ba'ashmo Shai when he had smit those waters at Meribah. When the Israelites was complaining for to that that they was thirsty and stuff. And brothers can read that in this. We'll give the reference. Numbers 20. Yep. Yep. The water of Meribah. So this is, brothers can read that account on why Moses. This was the account of why Moses didn't enter to the promised land for what happened at the waters of Meribah. So so yeah so um yeah so yeah so even Moses, he didn't enter the promised land. He was a great man, Yahweh Shimon Shai, and he didn't make it to the promised land because of that. What happened at that account? So even with him, that should. Well, our forefather Moses is a great man of Yahweh Shimon Shai with integrity. I should, put fear in us, because if Moses didn't make it to the promised land, who are we? So it should, have us be more humble and have more fear of the Lord. But verse 5, verse 6. So now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Lusting. Because when it was lusting that, because it was an account when the wicked Israelites, they was lusting after other food. They didn't want to, because they got tired of eating that manna that was from heaven. You know, and the Israelites, they got tired of eating the same thing. And they was lusting after quail, you know, after meat and stuff. And the Lord gave them that, and then a lot of Israelites ended up dying from that. You know, so you gotta be careful what you ask for, man. You can't, because basically they were being ungrateful. You know, and that's another thing too. We can't be ungrateful in the truth. The Lord gave us a lot by giving us His knowledge, man. But verse 7, it said, need to be idolaters, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Right. Idolaters is a person that worshipped other gods, worship idols, false gods. And our people was doing that with the golden calf. When Moses was up there on the mount, receiving the law, such commandments, our people, they they made Aaron make them a golden calf, man, and they was worshiping it. They was partying and bullshitting, eating and drinking, and while worshiping an idol. You know, which is nothing wrong with eating and drinking, partying. As long as it's in righteousness, nothing wrong with that. But they were doing it in a wicked sense. They were doing it in the name of worshiping of the false god. You know, it says verse 8. It said, neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell on one day 320,000 men. And that account can be found in Numbers the 25th chapter. As it said, in Israel bold and Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people into the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. So, yeah, wicked Israelites, bowing down to, the Moabite god, man. As it's going to say, and Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce of the anger of Yahweh may be turned away from Israel. Because remember, the Lord, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, is a jealous God. When He sees our people worshiping other gods outside of Him, He gets angry at that. Hence why the Lord was killing a lot of Israelites in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay every one of his men that were joined to Baal Peor. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel. So Yeah, this Israelite, he brought, you know, this Midianitish woman in front of all of the Israelites, you know, in front of Moses, all Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through. The man of Israel and the woman stayed, and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel, and those that died in that plague were 20 and 4,000, man. You know, so 20 and 4,000 Israelites got destroyed because they joined themselves into Baal Peor. Because this Israelite wasn't going off that he had a heathen woman as a concubine. He was going off because he was popping this Midianitish woman in the name of her God, in the name of Baal Peor, which was wicked. And that's why Eleazar, he did an honorable, righteous thing. And, he took a javelin and thrust him through, you know. So Apostle Paul was reverencing that account. You know, he said 23,000, but in number 25 said 24,000. Nonetheless, a lot thousands of Israelites were destroyed. You know, it says, "Neither let us tempt Yahweh Shai, some of them also tempted and were destroyed as serpents. Neither murmur you, as some of them also murmured, were destroyed as destroyed, man." You know, so they was tempting Yahweh by Shimon Shai. They were destroyed of serpents with the snakes. Um, that account is found. I'm not gonna read it just for sake of time, but just gonna give a summary of what happened. He was because the Lord had told Moses to make a put a pole with a serpent. Let's see. Um, um, yeah, the bronze. Yeah, the bronze serpent. Bronze. Yeah, because this account, a lot of Israelites, they was murmuring, they was complaining to the Lord, and the Lord had sent them snakes to bite them and stuff, and the Lord had made Numbers 21. There we go. Yep, the bronze serpent. So a lot of Israelites were basically like they were complaining to the Lord, and the Lord had sent them fiery snakes to bite them, and then the Lord had told Moses to make a bronze serpent, and whoever looks on it will be healed. You know. Yep. And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it on a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. You know. So yeah. So um, yeah, because when we read verse 5, it says, "And the people spake against Yahweh and against Moses, wherefore have he brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth this light bread." So, this was them murmuring, talking shit, towards the Lord, man. And said, "And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died, man." So the Lord was killing a lot of Israelites by having the snakes bite them. But, the Lord told Moses, looked on, um, whoever looked upon the fiery, the serpent. Let me just read it. It's like, "And the Lord Yahweh said to Moses, make thee a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when you look upon it, shall live. So whoever was bitten by a snake will, live." And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it on a pole, And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. So, yeah, so that's what that's the account that Apostle Paul was talking about in 1 Corinthians 10:9. Neither let neither let us tempt Yahweh as some of them also tempted, and will destroy the serpents. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmur, and will destroy the destroyer. So now all these things happen to them for examples, and they are written for our admonition upon the ends of the world are come, man. So everything, all these accounts that we read were written for our learning, written for our admonition, you know. So you know, just want to just want to make a lesson on how things written for time, written for our learning. What can we learn from these accounts? As I said, avoid Israel's mistakes, man. Don't murmur at the Lord. Don't be ungrateful. Don't worship other gods. Don't tempt the Lord. Don't murmur at the Lord. Because if you do these things in the truth, the Lord can kill you, destroy you, man. You know. So all these things are written for our learning that we can, that we all can learn from, man, and don't do the same mistakes our forefathers did. You know, and this was what our wicked forefathers was doing. You know, and we can learn from what our righteous forefathers did and apply those to our life. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. King David, King Solomon. You know, and how they please the Lord, man. By worshiping Yahweh Shemashah, being obedient. So, that was pretty much it. I just want to make a lesson on that. Lord, one of the was edified. And until next time, Shalom.